So hello everyone. Today again we are discussing Scrum related topics, or I would say Agile related topics. Some of the scenarios may be visible in the interviews as well. We'll see how we go. Now, before we get into questions, why don't you give a little brief about yourself and then we answer your questions?
Sure. Thank you, Saket, for organizing this event. And I have around 9 years of experience in IT, and around 4 years, the last 4 years, I have been working as a Scrum Master. Previous to that, I was into the development. So I understand both the things, like from the engineering perspective to the business perspective. And recently, in June, I started for my new job hunt. And so since then, I was following all of your video suggestions and scenario, and all the questions and answers that helped me a lot to achieve this journey. And I'm happy to say, and thankful to you and your whole team, the team that works behind the scene for your channel. So thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, we are happy. We are happy that you are finding this useful. Go ahead. Yeah, let's look at the Scrum questions now, or Agile questions now.
Sure. So one question was like, being a Scrum Master, how do you justify it? Like, a Scrum Master is even needed for a full-time job. So my answer was like, yes, Scrum Master is a full-time job, because, it is not something like, as we progress, as we go, it will become like, the team will be, quite experienced into Agile and Scrum. That is not the only thing. Scrum Master has to play on both the fronts, like assisting the project manager or the business analyst and the product owner also, becoming the part of the releases, trying to identify the risk and impediments in advance, and planning the capacity. And so this is a full-time job. So this was answer. Hopefully this worked.
So see, what I observe, I'm not saying what I theoretically believe, I observe is that usually it depends upon the organization area, or the type, the philosophy they follow, and also the type of work people are doing. There are situations where Scrum Masters are part of the team, means they are doing some part of sprint work as well, maybe as a business analysis extension, or maybe doing some kind of a technology work also. That's a possibility. So you may have some Scrum Masters who are technical and doing Scrum Master job. You also have a Scrum Master who is doing Scrum Master and some project management related activities. So say
Yes.
If your project involves reporting, invoicing, tracking of some kind of a data like timesheets, it's a part of a contract, and working with some other external stakeholders. So other than the normal team work, which you do as a Scrum Master, you end up doing a lot of external compliance and external documentation and external coordination work also. Then it's usually a full-time thing, because you need to do those kind of a reporting and PMO stuff as well. The third possibility could be, and it could be an extension of second possibility only, that you are working in a multi-team environment. So which increases the complexity. There are some Scrum meetings. There are various events which you are expected to attend. And then also, if it is coming along with the project management responsibility, then also it requires a good amount of time and investment. So that's another scenario. The fourth possible scenario could be, so we explored three, where the organization is new in Agile way of working, and as a Scrum Master, you are also a part of organizational transformation team, and you all are also planning and coaching and organizing Agile ways of working at an organization level. So you might be doing a Scrum Master job to your team, but you might be mentoring and coaching some other team who is taking a journey towards Agile way of working. So you might be a coach to other team and a Scrum Master to your team. That other team may also have a Scrum Master who is just learning, who is just grooming. That's another possibility. The further possibility could be that some organization allocate one Scrum Master to two teams. So you might be handling Scrum Master related work, but you have more than one team to work on. So it's depending upon how the organization is working, and it also, the amount of work you do is also a function, or quality of work or type of work you do is also a function of what is the maturity of your team. So my take here would be that better we answer this question from experience angle rather than what it should be or what it should not be. So probably you may say that in our organization or the organization I have worked with, observed with, these are the patterns which has been followed in my organization. This was the pattern which was followed. I'm not sure what is a style or a pattern in your organization is followed, but I'm open to learn that how the Scrum Master role is defined. So it's not necessarily just a role. A person doing Scrum Master role, what all or other things he might be doing other than Scrum Master role. So I am open to learn about it. Something like this, I think we can put here.
Yes, I also included that part. Like, I'm the part of that thing, like, like approaching the other teams and suggesting the solutions, like whether they can be, going to the Scrum or Kanban, and how Agile can shape their project better, and also like endorsing the Agile to the clients. So that part I included.
Yeah. So if you are, see, the another thing which we need to understand is the nature of the organization business. If it's a service organization business, then you need to sell the idea of Agile. You need to have a lot of documentation also to do with Agile along with your clients. If it's an in-house work, say product organization, then those kind of things are not coming. So you may have your experience, but the target prospect where you are giving the interview may be working in a different pattern. So we need to observe that, okay, what we have been doing, and you may be open to the idea of what they might be doing, because if they don't have a client complication, then they may not need all these things. Yeah. Then you need to sell the idea of Agile to the internal stakeholders.
Yes, agree. And the second question was like, if there is a bigger product and that needs to be broken down into multiple releases, and the releases should happen in parallel, and the increments should be in such a way that can be integrated. So I answered it like, we can go with the Scrum of Scrums, like, having multiple Scrum teams, they are working in parallel, and with the Scrum of Scrums, we can pick some senior members from each team to pass on the information, keeping everyone synced, and in that way we can plan deliveries so that the integrated solutions and the cost and the overall quality will be maintained. But skilled Agile will be a better option if it is really a bigger product and having teams, a larger teams around 100 or so. So we can go with the skilled Agile also.
So I think, see, the question which the interviewer is asking is definitely about scaling. That's clear cut. Now, there are various approaches for scaling. The way you explained doing Scrum of Scrum is also an approach for scaling. And it may be successful if the team is mature enough, if the product is understood well, and if there is no much organizational bureaucracy, it might be a good approach to start with. And it might be a successful approach. And other frameworks like Scaled Agile or say you pick up Nexus or anything else are more or less the same thing, but has some more structured recommendation of various events, and they may have some specific role. So when you are working in a multi-team environment, your concern is how do we split the work requirement? How do we split the value addition work? So how do we integrate the requirement and business delivery from a requirement perspective, from problem solving perspective for the multiple teams? So we need to have approach for that. Say you may have a common backlog which has a area which are worked by different team, or you may have some mechanism of ensuring that once the input to the team is coming in an integrated way, and at the same time the input which is coming to the team can be distributed so that each team can work on it fairly independently. There may be some interdependency, but we need to reduce interdependency as much as possible. So that's the first thing. So requirement comes. So you need to have some approach of product backlog management, which ensures that you may create separate product areas, separate features, or separate specialized component team. That all depends upon the nature of the product, the architecture of the product, and the nature and the quality and the skill set of the team members also. So you integrate the requirement. That's the first thing you do. Now, after that, you integrate the planning effort. So be it a sprint planning, or you may do a long-term planning. So say there is a possibility of On top of sprint planning, you have another planning. You may use the word release planning if you are using a generic word,
Yes.
or you may use a word quarterly planning. So you have some kind of a planning. Or if you say if you don't want to do that, then you need to have some mechanism of integrating the different sprint planning. So say 3-4 teams are doing sprint planning, they should know what the other teams are planning, and they should have integrated way of extracting the work which they are taking from a product backlog. So there could be a possibility like they may have a part of sprint planning where all the team representative are present and they decide what they want to do. They may have a team specific detailed sprint planning where whatever they have planned in the first segment, they expand that second segment, and then they plan it. And then you may have a third segment where you integrate everybody's plan and says, this is what we are going to do in a sprint. So we have some amount of requirement alignment, then we need to have some amount of planning alignment. So that you start with. Then you need to have an execution alignment. Now, execution alignment is periodic scrum meeting. So, or something like that. So why, since we are not clear which particular framework they might be looking at, yeah, they may have some preferences, they may have some strong preferences and strong dissatisfaction or reservation for some framework. So in an interview space, I may go with little thing, yeah, there are frameworks, and you may say that some of the frameworks you are aware of, but you can say generically we look for these things. How do we align requirement together? How do we plan together? How do we execute together? So when we are executing together, you may have a scrum meeting. You may have some kind of a special groups. You may call them community of practice or special group. Say special group to explore technological challenges, special group to talk about user story, maybe a different people who are writing user story, they're meeting with each other frequently. So you have some special group level interaction where multiple team members participate, multiple teams participate, and you may have a scrum of scrum. So you can say there could be a PO scrum of scrum, there could be a scrum master scrum of scrum, there could be a developer scrum of scrum. Technically speaking, yes. I am just making these names, but you have some amount of execution coordination. Yeah. And then you need to have some kind of review coordination and release coordination. So at the end of it, when you make the product ready, yeah, or at incrementally every week, every day, when you have something ready, how do you integrate multiple teams output, and how do you make it demonstrable, usable, learnable, so that we can have combined iteration review, sprint review, whatever you want to say there. And if the value has to be is ready enough to deliver to the end customer, then how can we release it again? So in general, the complete Scrum cycle, which is planning, doing, and inspecting and adapting, has to be done in the context of multiple teams. And the Scaled Agile framework is little specific, which gives approach. The safe target is enterprise. They don't focus on a particular problem or a particular project. They try to give a solution for the complete organization. They do have a part called Essential Safe, which is more focused on execution. So there is a possibility somebody may use the Essential Safe part of it and may also solve the multi-team coordination challenges by taking ideas from there. Now, in order to do a planning together, execution together, you may end up creating some roles. So you may say that there is a guy who you need to ensure that there is an integrated coordination happening. If the two teams are unable to resolve the issue, this person has to resolve it. So depending upon the complexity, sometimes these explicit rules starts coming in. If the teams can take care, Scrum Master can take care among themselves and resolve the problem. If the problem is not big enough, you may not need those explicit rules, but over a period of time, those explicit rules may start coming in. Yeah, that's, I think, is the basic objective of any scaling. Yeah,
that's perfect. Another question was like, how to keep your team cross-functional. So it was a common question in all recent interviews, and I answered differently. But overall, I think what I answered was building the best team by providing them either the coaching or sessions, and be it the technical side or the business side. So identifying that who all are needed for this session, and based on the requirements and the need, identify some resources from within the organization or outside the organization to coach them, teach them, so that they are they are learning the new cutting edge skills, as well as they understand from the business side also, because at the end of the day, it is not just delivering a piece of the code, it is also something that adds value to the customer. So this was one thing. So, and other things were like, encouraging them to, try, and, even it fails, that's okay. And for conflict resolution and developing a plan, creating objectives and key results for each member for a quarterly basis, and observing them. The objectives and key results should be on personal level, organization level, and delivery level, so that can keep my team cross-functional, and like encouraging them to learn the things that other members are doing. Like this will help if some member is on leave, or if some member is not available at all. So this is something that I answered.
So I think all are good enough ideas. The only recommendation I will give for such kind of question is better you convert into an experience question, because say theory can go in any direction, and people can also list 100 things, but doing is something different, and listing is something different. So you may start with that we have a one team right now. This is a 1-year-old team, or this is a 6-month-old team, and these are the things I have tried with them. Yeah, so you may not give all the ideas. You can say that there are 100 things, but these are the things which we have been trying. So I think try to frame the answer where you have practiced something, and you talk about the advantages and disadvantages which you have observed. Say, for example, because people may come up with a case that how do you make team cross-functional, where there are people who don't want to learn about any other function. Say there is a developer who just want to do a particular type of development only. He's
Yes.
no more interested in doing something. So you may say, yeah, we have a case, and this is what happened in our case. So you bring that. If one the interviewer may try to bring that, or interviewer may feel that okay, this is something a generic ideas. So
yeah.
Ideas which you shared all are relevant. So giving opportunity to learn each other, pairing them, mentoring them, training them. You stressed significantly on training. So you need to see that how do you relate to your story with the training. If you have been, say, you may say that we have a pattern of organizing some amount of training every 2 months, every 3 months. And these are the 5 trainings we have organized in the recent time. We try to distribute trainings into different domain space. Sometimes we do business oriented, sometimes we do a technology oriented. This is how we have been doing pairing. This is how I have paired one developer with the business guy when they were doing backlog refinement, something like this. Or this is how I have paired one guy with a support guy. So something like this. So you bring those kind of idea, and doing one-on-one coaching is anyway good idea. And you can say that, yes, we do have a pattern of doing coaching, which you can fit anywhere, where you talk about that maybe every alternate week I have a one person. So you can say I do a one-on-one coaching every day, or every twice a week. And then by doing this, everyone get an opportunity to have a one-on-one coaching at least once in a month or once in 2 months. And we maintain a log of our previous discussion. And our primary focus during that particular one-on-one coaching is how one can be more like fruitful, more engaged in the development team. May not use the word productive, because then other person may feel that he is trying to extract more from me. You can say we have a goal that how do we make person more comfortable and engaged, what all can be done, what all has been done in the previous 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and we resolve and improve it. So you may pick up those ideas as well. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. And another question was situational, and I actually faced in when the pandemic was there. The question was like, what if some of your team members, resources, people go on leave, and that was not planned. So how do you handle the delivery and the timelines? I answered it like, first of all, for such situation, I was aware of the situation that the pandemic is going to last for a few months. So I communicated that clearly with the client, with the stakeholders, and also the management in my own company, within the team also, that we might face some slight delays, or we may not be able to deliver the whole thing as we have planned for this sprint. The sprint was a 1 month sprint. So the next question was like, how you handled the deliveries, and how you ensured that everything was delivered on time. So I answered it what I actually faced and did. Like, I was having 2 shadow resources, one from the UI, one from the Q, what I actually had. So they worked for me. They were not exposed, but they worked for me. Also, against the capacity, I was having around 15% buffer. I remember you have once said that, the numbers we should not take. 10 or 15 can be, confusing. So, but still, that what I answered, like I was having a 15% buffer, so that worked. Also, some features by negotiating with the customer directly, that due to the pandemic and the people are not there. So our first priority is to take care of the people, our team, because they have been working really well in the recent past. So for this sprint only, we will not be able to deliver 2 stories out of 12, and for some stories there will be limited features. So this is
So see, this is something I have been like also noticing in our YouTube comments, and we also have a community named Oguild, and there also these kind of questions are coming where people can ask questions. It's an engagement mentoring community, and I do see this question frequently coming up nowadays. So my personal take here is, as a Scrum Master or as a project manager, I don't try to solve this problem alone. I'm not saying this is the solution. I don't know what is the solution, but I am focusing on facilitating finding of the solution. So how do I do that? I ensure that situation is understood by the key stakeholders, that we communicate that this is what has happened. And then I provide various alternative paths, solution alternative path, as much I can think of. And then I invite others to provide alternative path. So there could be various alternative paths. One alternative path could be, say, prioritizing the requirement. Simple alternative path could be rescheduling the release date. Yeah, that's anyway alternative path. Maybe in some cases it's okay. Client may say, we are also suffering. We understand. Let's change the date. That's a possibility. The second, I can't decide that. When people are together, we may have that agreement. Sometimes we may prioritize the requirement with the help of stakeholders and identify what is critical for us and which is also a part of our capacity. So we make our capacity visible, we make the work visible, and then we find out that, okay, in this much capacity, what best we can do and what part of the solution which we can build, which can help us in achieving the business goal as well as dealing with our situation. That's a possible situation, but only with the stakeholder interaction I can drive that. The third possibility, which in a way you were telling that you had some people who could join in, there is also a possibility. Your organization may have ready to deploy resources from other project or from other product team. When you do this interaction, they may say, anyway, we have these individuals who can do the work. And since because of COVID-19, their project got scrapped and they are ready to do this type of work, which requires less interaction, because they already understand our company culture, because usually adding people late in the project can also make you slow rather than fast. But assuming if the ready to deploy individuals are coming because of the same company, same technology and all, they may not have that much learning curve or may not have that much dip in the productivity before they become productive for you. But again, that suggestion cannot come from me. That suggestion can come from my stakeholders, provided I make the situation visible to them. That's the another thing. So my role is making it visible and helping the other people to find out what best can be done. The other possibility could be our team may decide that, okay, we do have this thing. Can we do some kind of stretching, and is it controllable by doing some kind of stretching? That's another possibility. But again, I can't say that you have to do it. Only by talking to the team and they see the need and they realize that we have a capacity, we have some stretched capacity available, and they are motivated to do it, then you can facilitate them to doing it. So ultimately, it's a solution which needs to be discovered. There are multiple possibilities, but I facilitate that solution discovery. I may organize a small brainstorming session where I invite the key stakeholders. I share what is happening. I share the possible impact of what is happening. And then together we find out what best can be done. My internal people, and the client, as well as my development team, all are participant in it.
Yes. And another question was like, how do you identify that, some of the resources are trying to just, show the fake velocity by adding more story points to the stories. So I answered it like, the story points are, related to the risk and, the overall effort. So effort and risk is, calculated, and based on that we put the story points. So to check that whether the story point was correct or this team was just trying to make the velocity increasing and actually not doing that. So from our past experiences, the last sprints, we can identify like similar stories we have delivered with this story point, and this is something similar in future. Second thing, like having faith in the team. So it's not just one member who is putting the story points. Overall team is present there, and story is broken down into like database side work, service side work, UI side work, testing side work. So everyone is constantly monitoring, so they can within time they can identify that this is something that is spiked. So this is I answered.
I think we need to understand the intent of the question and then target that intent more. So in your answer, you spend little time on story point also, which might not be the intent of that particular question in my perception. But yeah, the second part was focusing on the intent. So what seems to be the intent? How do you make sure that some people are not fooling others by doing something which they are not doing? That is what I pick it up. How do you as a Scrum Master ensure that? And you clearly said that it's a group activity. Yeah, so we ensure that we have group activity when we are doing estimation. Everybody can challenge. The complete planning is a group activity. It's not an isolated activity. I'm not saying a one person, oh, this is a story, tell me how much time you need. Yeah, if I'm doing that, then that possibility can come. Somebody will say, I need this much time, and you may not have any reason or any solid thing to challenge him. But when you are doing a group activity, you expect and you encourage people challenging each other by way of you also put your question there. Sometimes you also challenge, oh, this looks similar. Why do we need more time here? Because this was done differently last time. So you also put that kind of a question there. So that's a good thing to ensure some amount of transparency. Now, you also said, well, that you have a velocity trend. So that also give kind of range check. We won't say that velocity has to be always estimated and actual always right, but it gives a kind of range check that are we going up or are we going down? But yes, velocity trend may also start getting fooling around if people are putting more story points and then needed. So, but yeah, there is a trend which can probably help you. But transparency by way of common planning is a great thing to do. The another thing is transparency with the help of daily scrums. So every day we reflect on what was worked, what was not worked. And if we see that the quantum of worked item is not that much, it can create a question, and you can have a one-on-one coach, one-on-one conversation also with those individuals to understand what is happening there. Again, you are not going with the attitude of suspicion. You are going with the attitude of understanding what could be the challenge which is faced by these people and why it is happening. In my personal observation, because of this COVID, this situation is becoming more and more challenging now. Because earlier when people were sitting across the table, at least there was more amount of transparency and we can see what was working, what was not working. But when people are isolated because of the design in the today's world, the risk of going these kind of a derailing is increasing. And to mitigate that, we need to have more and more common space time, even in the remote working space. Maybe a common meeting time, common time when people are together in a one maybe a meeting room and doing the work and asking question whenever they have some question, and later on they might be doing their isolated work. So we need to have a frequent common interaction. More and more team related activities can ensure that people don't take the corner approach. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Another question was like, how do you maintain the velocity and keep on increasing? So I answered it like, to maintain the velocity, we need to be transparent, and the team should be like learning things and adapting the changes. They should be like keeping them focused on it. So we will be like meeting with the edge to edge to the velocity, but velocity should not be ideally always increasing. And with this answer, 3 companies actually were not happy. But I learned this from you only, that the velocity should not always be increasing, Because in my practical personal experience in last few years, what I felt, so previously we were not writing the test cases. Previously we were not putting the security checks, security like automation test, and the security and merging reports, everything was not going with the build itself. So when we introduced that and created a benchmark that with each delivery these things need to be identified. Tools can be anything. For me it was SonarQube and other things, but it can be anything. So tools are not something that make lots of importance. It's like the mindset. So if we put more code quality, more security checks, more benchmarks to ensure the quality and reduce the cost, the velocity may come down for some time.
Yeah. So see,
but yes, most of the interviewers were not happy, and I felt like that didn't work.
Okay, so what I believe is you may need to see the intention of the interviewer also. See, in many cases in service organization space, they just want to have a one number which keeps increasing and the client remains happy and everybody's happy. So you need to judge what they are looking at. And before saying that velocity may not increase and all, you may need to tell the background story the way you said. So you can start, rather than you comment on velocity up and down, you can say the velocity is a function of two things in a simple word: definition of done and story point number given to it, and then definitely doing the work. Yeah. So these are the three things which are influencing velocity number. Now, if I am if I'm strengthening my definition of done, then what will happen? Yeah, my velocity may go little down, because earlier I was able to mark done various things. Now my definition of done is increasing. Now in some organization, what they do is, as the definition of done starts becoming stringent, they start also start story pointing the stories higher also. So say if I have a story A in a definition of done 1 month ago, the story A was called 5. As I increase the definition of done, now they start calling it 8, because they say, oh, we have to do so much work related to it. So ideally it should not be happening, but in reality it might be happening. Yeah. So we need to be clear that, okay, definition of done is something which influence the velocity. So you can say that I need to see what philosophy your organization is taking. If you are making definition of done stringent, do you change the story points of the work, which may look similar than the previously estimated story point, but initially the definition of done was weak. Now how you are dealing with it. So you may say that. And indirect related is how people started doing the story point estimation. So if definition of done is increasing, are you starting estimating story high? If you start doing high, then you may always either see a kind of range velocity or may see an increasing velocity. Now, what are the other factors which can create issue? As the system starts growing, your technical depth also starts growing. And if you don't keep those things under check, say a lot of defects, a lot of code issues, and a lot of integration issues, then your velocity may probably starts going down. So one of the way of keeping velocity up or checking velocity towards high side is not letting technical depths to grow or manage them into a controllable space, and automating various steps which you were doing manually before. So you have understood that this is what we are doing. You have created some common usable code libraries. You have some faster way of integrating and testing. So by doing it, so by promoting reusability, by promoting automation, and by keeping check on increase in the system is not increasing the complexity of doing coding. Because say coding a 1 page new and coding a 1 page in 100-page application might be a different thing, because when you are coding a 1 page in a 100-page application, you need to make sure that 1 page fits well. Yeah, and maybe a new person may not even be able to figure it out how to start coding that 1 page in a 100-page application, where if you are coding it fresh, it might be a different case. So that's the another factor. We need to keep the simplicity in design in check to ensure that our velocities are overall growing. So if I just talk about velocity represents your effectiveness, in case if we keep all the variabilities aside, then one of the easiest way of looking at this effectiveness increase is making use of our previous learning. So reusability of logic, reusability of design, and automation. Yeah. So, and keeping check on the defects and the depths which we are probably acquiring, over a period of time.
Perfect. And another question was, it was in the final rounds in most of the companies. So it was like, do you have strategies to, deal with the tough clients, difficult clients, or the clients who are too demanding, or, not getting involved into the sessions, but, into the final meetings, they come up with, the rapid changes. So I answered it like, first of all, I will, try to identify and listen them carefully, note down, jot down all the points, and discuss with the team that this is the feedback that we are getting, and on what points out of these 10 feedbacks, where do we stand? Was it everything was our fault, or it is something that is from either from the the information flow, or from product owner, or maybe the implementation, or in some chances maybe the client is blaming us wrongly. It's not something that we have done. So for that, with the politely, I'll ask the customer, interview them, and identify all the issues that they are facing, and then we'll share with my team, and we'll try to figure out and find out a solution, and keeping them more involved in more interactive ways, like frequent demos, and beta releases, and like introducing our team members frequently, and showing them that for a daily progress, or more transparency to the product. So in the time during the sprint, we get the feedback, not at the end of it.
Perfect.
I was not really sure.
Yeah. So what I see in your answer is you are talking about some proactive approaches and some reactive approaches. So proactive approaches is that you are engaging with them, involving them in the beginning. And the reactive approach is if the situation goes wrong, then I calmly listen to them. I make a list of the issue, and then we take care of it. We talk about what can be done and what is our fault and what is their fault, and we show empathy and we resolve it. So that's a reactive approach. When something is already went wrong, this is what we do. So see, both the things are needed, irrespective of life cycle, be it agile way of working, scaled agile way of working, or be a project management way of working. Working with stakeholder is little artistic work, and that is something is a key work for any delivery. And it is more about stakeholder expectation management and keeping them engaged in our overall development or implementation work. Irrespective of life cycle, this is needed. Now, how do we start with that? So first is, depending upon what kind of a role and what kind of an organization you are working on, I need to have an identification of stakeholders. I need to have assessment that, okay, who are the people who are important? Now we will say in an iteration review, in a sprint review, invite stakeholder, but who are the stakeholder? It's 100 people stakeholder list. So who are exactly needed? And if out of 10 needed, only 5 coming, then what do I do with the remaining 5? Yeah, because other 5s are not showing up. They don't have time to look at my iteration review or a sprint review demo every 2 weeks. They are too busy to do that. So now I have, in reality, I have to deal with it. I can't say that Scrum tells you to be an iteration review or a sprint review and you are not coming. So what do I do as a Scrum Master? I am done here. So you can't say in the reality, because you need to deal that particular situation. So I need to identify who are the stakeholder, what is their preferences, and how well I can engage with them, how best I can engage with them. So definitely the best is that you bring them, especially the key one, you bring them into requirement discussion, you bring them into a backlog refinement, you bring them into an iteration review, so they are engaged. But sometimes when those stakeholder believes that they have given you the right requirement and they let their subordinate handle it, but they don't want to come. And they only want to come at a later stage. He says, my subordinate will give you the feedback, but once the real feedback comes after 6 months, 7 months, then they will say, no, this is not right. Maybe my subordinate missed talking about it, but you should be understanding it. So there could be a lot of loop can get started. So how do I avoid that? So depending upon the situation, I need to come up with some approaches. Say, for example, one of the approach could be I make periodic special meetings maybe a review meeting kind of things where I do a little large demo. If I understand these stakeholders cannot attend every 2 weeks, I may have once in a month, once in a 2 months kind of a review meeting where I invite the larger stakeholder segment to it. That's a one possibility. Another possibility is periodically I may create a small video of our application, and I may push that along with the report that, okay, I understand you may not be coming for the demos, but this is a recording of our recent work. You may want to check it out. So I try, and then I may have my one-on-one follow-up with those people that, okay, like you got a chance to see our video. If yes, what was the feedback? Can I arrange a special demo for you? So you may end up arranging some frequent special demos for the critical stakeholders who are not available all the time. So depending upon the situation, is it a right thing to do or wrong thing to do? I don't know. But if it is, there is a situation, I have a stakeholder and I do see, I have identified that stakeholder as a critical stakeholder during stakeholder identification based on various feedback I got from other stakeholder as well as from my organization. And this particular stakeholder is not getting time, or not, because of various reasons, he's unable to give me a feedback. Then I need to find a connect with him and take a feedback from that particular stakeholder. Other possibility now in this virtual world, this is becoming a little more tricky, finding more and more informal interaction opportunities with the stakeholders so that you have some kind of a trust build with them, not necessarily always talking about work. And those informal networking may help you in getting their engagement and involvement and maybe honest feedback. So we are not saying, I'm not saying that you take advantage of your informal network, but if you have a trust because of informal network, they may give you the honest feedback that, whatever your team is doing and you guys are doing, but we are not liking it. You may not like this feedback, but this is what I am feeling. If you don't have that trust build, they may not give this feedback to you right now, but they may give in a formal way after a few months, which may be more dangerous to handle. So multidimensional identification, continuous engagement, assessment, finding alternative path. If the one path is not working, continuously keep adapting to the path. And if situation go out of hand, then follow all those things which you said, listen to them, and then find out how to correct it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And one question was like, like we all know that, the risk in the project management, but what all types of risks that you have faced in that? So I would, from my experience, I shared like, one was the resource risk, because, some of the resources were not available, some were leaving the organization, and we were not able to, find out the perfect replacement in time. Maybe some didn't join on times, and other hiring issues. Other risk that I faced was like, the technical risk, like, the framework that we chose to work, that was something like, it was in the beta in nature. So that was also having some issues with that. So that was one risk. And like from cost side also, I have faced it, like, due to certain deviations or delay. So the cost for us has increased. So to identify them prior, I suggested the interviewer that, interview the stakeholders, and like doing the active discussions, the brainstorming. There might be many rules and techniques. Creating the checklist, and like assumption analysis, cause effect diagrams, and NGT or affinity. So this is something in brief I'm telling you. So I elaborated this more, and I think this worked.
Good. So
actually, this was This was actually from he was asking for like personal and practical experience, the type of risk that you have faced.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I think you elaborated pretty well, and more or less framed well. So you are talking about some kind of people type of risk. There were technology kind of risk. There could be a cost variation type of risk. So these are the three category risk you picked up in a way. And I think, and identification of these risks are a continuous process. Assumptions are definitely one of the source, various documents, various inputs from the stakeholders, the environmental trend, say the COVID is going on, so environmental trend or the thing which you see in the environment happening also triggers some set of risk. So those things are there, and and only one probable addition is that, you can say that whenever we do any commitment, any planning, we do talk about what can go wrong. So say when we are doing sprint planning, we look at, okay, for this sprint goals or this sprint work which we are picking up, what are the possible risks which we need to be aware of, keep eye on, so that we don't derail. So whenever we have commitments, we do look at possible things which can derail our commitment. So we identify those risks whenever we do a commitment by way of having a conversation. And whenever we review ourselves, maybe periodically in a daily scrum or some other review, we also look at, okay, are we keeping our derailing factor on check? If they are on check, then it's good, we are going right. And if they are not on check, then we think of what we thought about those factors, how we intend to deal with them. So some kind of a mitigation and all those things, we start working in that direction. Yeah.
Perfect. Another question was like, why do we need to do retrospective at all? If you feel like, if it is needed, really, it is important. So, what do you do with the things that didn't went well? So it was like, he was not asking about, those 3 points that in retrospective we identify went well and those things. So from my experience, I answered it like, for the things what went well, we really like, say thanks to the team members, stakeholders and clients. We like, encourage and doing the same thing and in a similar way. But for the things that didn't went well, we try to identify the problem. And at this point, he asked that, how do you identify the problem and how do you suggest the solution? So what I have done in the recent past, I have done LDJ, the lightning decision zen. So I answered in that way that, we bring everyone at a common place through the meetings nowadays, and I share one Excel sheet with them so that they can in each seat name, I put the name of the members and some from the management side also, some stakeholders, and they put the problem and the solutions what they feel, and we try to identify or pick the solutions that were mostly voted or that were repetitive in nature. So based on that, we try to find out the problem and identify the solution, and based on that, we try to create the actionable items. So in every retrospective, we try to find out the solution and then the actionable items, because without that, process is not going to improve. It will just be meeting. So I hope this also worked in all 11.
Good. So this is this is a one good approach. So you can say we have a one approach, and there could be multiple such way of
Yes.
prioritization and problem solving thing. And you can say this is what we have been using for recent time, and it is giving us result. And sometime you will want to go in a different structured approach of finding the best possible solution. So this is something like you are saying, we ask a problem and solution to multiple people, we group those solutions together, and what are the common theme which we observed in those solutions. We probably take a vote further on those common themes, because since it is coming as a common theme, there is a highly likely that those solutions are more preferred by many stakeholders. Yeah, and they believe those solutions will work. And you find out the action items, you pick up the action item and put into a sprint backlog, probably into a product backlog or somewhere. So that is also probably you may want to talk about where do you put them, because some of the action item may directly go into the upcoming sprint backlog. There has to be something which is going on. Some could be, say, you want to automate part of your development work, you may want to automate part of your testing. That's a retrospective action you have got. It may go into a product backlog because it requires some amount of prioritization before you can really do it. And there could be some actions which are going to scrum masters or managers and all. They may not go into a product backlog, they may not go into a sprint backlog, but there has to be some tracking which maybe as an impediment board or somewhere there are improvement ideas so that they are reported back on. So you may also want to talk about how you track those items to the closer. And I think in general, your answer should work.
Yes. Another question was, it was like the final question that most of the, the final round, in the final round interviews, the managers or the program managers or directors or sometimes the VPs ask. and that I also faced, like, do you have any question for me? So I'm not sure that I was, I asked it in a good way or not, but you know, from the success stories, I feel like, I have asked in the correct way. My questions were to all the managers were like, can you share more about the project or the product where I'll be involved if I get hired, and like how your team describes you, to be very fair, what is the feedback of your team about you, and is this something that you really love, and you really dream that this will be your job profile. So these questions I asked to all the managers wherever it was asked, like, do you have any questions for us? So please suggest
So
if I
see,
was
what I
not
feel,
asked.
I feel is we need to see the objective, like why I'm asking the question. What would I like to show? Yeah, or what would I like to learn? So one thing is I want to show my expertise. That's a one possibility. Yeah. The another possibility is I may want to show my curiosity about your organization, interest in your organization. That's a one possibility. Yeah, that could be a kind of question I may ask. So I may ask a little bit about, okay, I have been like, based on various interview questions I faced, I am assuming that the type of role you are looking for is involving multiple teams. And can you talk about how, where it fits, where the prospective role of mine fit into your organization or your set of work. So which you also kind of said that you may want to ask that, okay, tell me a little bit more about the project and work which I am going to work on. So that's a good question, because it is showing that you are interested in them, and you are also trying to proactively think that, okay, what all I need to probably get ready with, so that I want to work on. Yeah, so that's a one possibility. Yeah. The second possibility could be I may want to understand about my interview and their expectation also. So I kind of catching up the feedback. So I may reiterate and ask that, in your view, what is the desired competencies and skills you think the person should have in order to perform at this particular profile, which you are hiring me. So what is your expectation from this profile? So by asking that, you are, again, if you are collecting feedback that, okay, what possibly I was working good on and what possibly I was not doing something good on. So that's a little bit more self-reflection one. It's a little defensive question, because it is making you, so if you are little 50-50 about the prospect, then you may ask this kind of a question, because you also want to understand what was working and what was not working, so that you can take the subsequent step for the next. Asking about how your team describes you and all. So I don't see any objective getting met there. So it is like, it is not giving me any information about the project. It is not giving me feedback about my performance also. So I may skip that. Yeah. So I need to see how my question should show an interest in their work. That's a one possibility. And by showing interest, I'm also learning about my prospective work. That's the second advantage I get. Or my question should help me in improving in my own handling with subsequent rounds. Especially if I'm in a first few rounds, I may ask about what is your expectation from this particular profile and all, so I can be ready when I am coming for the next set of rounds. Yeah.
Perfect. Actually, I was just trying to know more about the boss.
Yeah.
But now I understand that the same question can be asked in a different, more humble way. More stylish way. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and another question was like, that she asked me, like, how do you want to shape up your future in terms of professional career, and where do you see in few years? So I answered,
where do you see yourself in next 5 years? People still ask this question.
Yes, few. And okay. So I answered it like what I really I'm aiming and targeting, that I want to be a agile coach. So So next question was like, why do you want to be a agile coach and not a project manager or a program manager in the long run? So I said that, I'm already the project manager. As a project manager, I'm about to join your organization or company. So next I see like, I will be more independent, and, as I'm already as a Scrum Master, I have been mentoring and coaching the people. So I understand that process. And if I become a agile coach, I'll help train corporate teams on agile methodologies and oversee the development of agile teams to ensure effective outcomes for the organization.
Got your
So
point.
this one,
So,
yes,
see, the whole idea here is, yeah, what probably the person may want to dig by asking this question. That's something we need to see. And again, the depending upon the previous conversation, you may make your assumption that what is the intent of this question. So sometime they may want to find out what is your aspiration and can they meet your aspiration in the long term. Say, for example,
yes,
you say that I want to be X, and they realize that X thing doesn't exist in our organization. And then they may make a note that this person's aspirations and our aspirations are not matching, probably. Yeah.
yes,
So that's the possible things they may want to understand. The second possible thing they may want to understand is that what is your interest areas. So do you enjoy delivery? Do you enjoy coaching? Do you enjoy mentoring? Because whenever you talk about your next role, it also demonstrate what, like the way you explained, I want to be an agile coach, I am already doing project management and all. So it is showing your future interest area. Now, if the interviewer is looking for project management core skills, then he may say, yeah, Prasan is doing project management, but he's not committed to project management in long term. Yeah, because his futures are somewhere else. So that could also be interpreted differently. So it's a little
yes,
risky question. I think we need to see, rather than you, what you really want to do, you need to see what this person want to extract out of it. Try to be moderate, not think too, my recommendation is not to be very ambitious in showing that answer. So you can say one of the moderate answer is that I want to improve my value delivery to my clients. And whatever I'm delivering right now, I want to find more and more better way of doing it. Maybe my title remains the same, but I might be doing like double the value delivery than I do right now. So something like a moderate and something like this. So I don't have an aspiration of changing my title or something. Title may get changed on its own if it is needed, but I need to more focus on doing rather than label that, okay, where do you see after 5 years? Rather than saying I want to be an agile coach, I says along with my teams, I also want to play an organization transformation roles where I can help the other part of the organization also implementing better delivery and say development practices. So in a way, you are saying that you want to be an agile coach, but you are not saying I want to be an agile coach. You are saying I want to do the work which agile coaches usually do, yeah, over a period of time, and along with me. So that is little less risky, yeah, because the other person may not be able to interpret what you are saying, and the looks little moderate. Yeah, that's my
yes.
advice.
Actually, I included that, and actually, I included in my answer that over a period, I would like to
Yeah.
become a coach. Yes, I
Yeah.
included that. Rest of the questions were common, what I have already learned from you, like user stories, PERT, Scrum artifacts.
Good.
So will not,
Good.
will
Good.
not
Good.
take into that.
Great. Yeah, I think it was nice. We spoke for an hour, I guess. Yeah. Good. I think.
Yes, I never noticed. Yes. Thank you so much. It's like a dream come true.
No, no.
The person I have been following, the person who made me crack 11 successful job offers from 14 interviews in just 20
Good.
in just 20 or 25 days.
Good,
So
good, 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 good. And again, as we were discussing informally, it is not about a copy paste answer, but it is all about fixing our thought process. Because see,
yes,
like when I remember when I used to give interviews 20 years ago, there was no clue how to approach. Somebody's asking something, you apply your best judgment and you answer something, and you don't even have a way to reflect on, oh, okay, I could have organized my thoughts. Yeah. So my
yes,
intent here is more on helping you to see the attitude or the perspective, the viewpoint from the interviewer might be asking, then reflecting on your question and say, okay, how do I package my question in such a way so it meets the need of the interviewer, and also showcase what I know and what I have been doing. Yeah. That's the whole idea.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for taking time out.
Thank you for shaping the style of thinking. And it really helps, improve the way of life also. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.